Hi, Awaken, blah, 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 blah. Welcome to another Awaken Your Work Life. Sorry, everybody. New interface with Facebook Live here today, so thank you for your patience. But we decided to bring Sue on today, Karn and I did, because guess what? We can tell you all the information that's out there and how we coach people and how we get them to this next place, but there's nothing better than the real deal of someone who decided to jump off the ledge. Sue's jumping. She's actually mid jump right now. And she's and I just thought that we should have this dialogue and this conversation because sometimes it just is to see somebody else actually take that leap that gives you the courage to take that next right step for you in your work life to feed your heart and soul much more. So, Sue, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me with you, ladies. It's an honor.
Of course.
So those of you who don't know, so Sue and I have worked together for what, probably 12 years?
10 years, 11 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, you know, my son's almost 12. So I think I started working with you when Timmy was born about approximately.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you were pregnant for like the first half of our working years together.
Yeah, 4 kids in 5.5 years will do that.
Oh my God.
I know, right? Still putting the body back together. But Sue has decided, so Sue has played the role for me and many other clients where she has been their social media expert. She's been the consultant that I have worked with to help me grow and to build and to learn how to do business via social media, a whole new marketing realm. And Sue came to me, what, 2 weeks ago, a week ago, something like that?
Unfortunately, you were on vacation, so I was glad to talk to you while you were away to give you timely, I think it was about 3 weeks ago today.
Can you share like your journey and like some of the things that you went through as your, I think it's important for people to hear like all the disconnects that go on in our physical bodies when we know we're not doing the right things. Like you had mentioned, like, you know, I just noticed my anxiety started going up and working in certain areas. And I started to and you were watching the videos that Karn and I were doing going, this isn't working for me anymore. I need to take this leap. And so I would love for you to just share anything that you're comfortable with sharing, and then that'll start the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's kind of interesting because I just realized when I actually make the actual physical move that I'm making, it will be 13 years almost to the day that I left the corporate world in tech startup as a senior vice president to start my own business.
That's hard to do because that's a good salary. You're rocking and rolling. You've got a lifestyle that you're used to. And so 13 years ago, you took one leap and now you're taking a second leap.
Taking another leap. And, you know, and the reason I made that first leap was also everything you guys talk about, right? I was making very good money. And I was miserable for a lot of reasons, not just because of the job, but I had gotten myself, because of lack of boundaries, I was doing the 16-hour-a-day tech startup thing. I lost family members, you know, that I could have spent more time with. And I just went through this, oh my God, I know how to do this. I can go do this on my own thing. And that was something that a lot of people were like, you know, wow, I can't believe you did that. This is so exciting. Well, fast forward to today and everything I've been doing over the last many years. I've been doing social media since before there were pictures and videos on it. Those were much easier days. And, you know, a lot of things transpiring, just, you know, the way social media has changed, the way it's always changing, the climate that we've been in over the last several years with respect to politics and COVID and advertising. And it's just been this overstimulation of doing for clients, training for clients, teaching clients, trying to be my own presence, as well as I side gig as a fitness instructor. So also promoting that. My entire existence has become Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and trying to be and trying to escalate and trying all the things. And after I did lose a lot of business over COVID, I had built up a lot of speaking gigs and workshops that suddenly collapsed. I worked with people in event planning and, parks and rec and things that just, and it was tough. And for a long time, I was like, why can't I get back to where I was? Really self-doubt, like, you suck, you can't sell, no one wants what you're doing, you've lost touch, and all these things in my head. And watching.
And can I interrupt you there? I want people who are watching to realize that when those things happen, it has nothing to do with that you suck. It has nothing to do with that you're not worthy. But yet this is where our subconscious likes to hardwire this. It just means you're not supposed to go that direction. Like, that's all it means. The universe is showing you, nope, nope, nope. But then here's the open door over here, right?
And that voice, and like I said, watching all the things that Julie does, all those messages help me to become aware and really be in tune, and starting to realize, like, no, it's not because I'm not able to do this. It's because my soul doesn't want me to keep doing this. And that anxiety of being the social media person who was getting anxiety and depression because of social media had me so out of integrity with what I was doing and with myself. And it was interesting, Julie, too, even working with you and having the opportunity to do a lot more of the back end stuff and the process and getting back in with other systems. I was like, I missed this, some of the other stuff. And it just, it led me down a path that was reaching out to people, not sure if I was going to give up my business, but let's find some other contract gigs in different areas that will, but it ultimately led me down a path, which was, here's an opportunity for a new job, learning all of these things around digital marketing that is not social media. And, oh, by the way, can you move to Austin, Texas? And if anyone is listening to this that I haven't told yet, I'm really sorry, I'm trying. But there it is. And I never thought that I was going to go back to full-time work, leave Chicago. Oh my God. And I sat with it because I also, during this time that this all came up, I had just found out my dog had cancer, had to put him down, and then got COVID. And
and can I also add one more thing? Before those two things occurred, your brother passed away.
Yeah.
It was like, holy crap. Like, the world was just going bam, 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 bam. Like, you had a lot of hits. And this is where I like to point out the fact that it doesn't shift in just one area of your life. Like, again, we either work things out or we act it out. We do it through our money, through our health, or through our relationships. And in our work life, we then become workaholics, or we, it's just another avenue in where we act our stuff out. And if you stay in jobs that aren't feeding your heart and soul, it then affects your health. Then it affects your money. Then it affects your relationships.
Yeah, I wanna ask you, Sue, about, as these things were happening, what was your first gut reaction? Like, was it like, I don't want to put any words in your mouth, like, as these things were happening to you, and sometimes we would characterize them as negative things or bad things.
Yeah.
What was your initial reaction? And then what did you choose, if you did?
As far as the opportunity or the other things that were happening?
Like these things that we just talked about. We talked about, like, losing your brother, losing your dog, like getting COVID, like, what's happening? What was happening for you as these things were happening? What was your reaction about, like, even as to who you are in the world versus maybe what you chose in terms of perspective separately? Maybe you didn't choose something different, but I'd love to know, because I think it's important for people to see themselves in your story and that they're not alone.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's been so helpful too. And when you've brought people on, it's like that people say, I resonate with that. And okay, this is a different way of thinking of something. And, there were a lot of things, related to my brother, who he was an alcoholic. And I had spent a lot of time in therapy myself because of past relationships where people were the same. You see that familial thing. And so it was one of those things with my brother where it was a lot of anticipatory grief. Like, we knew it was coming. We just didn't know if it was going to be tomorrow or 2 years from now. And what was really interesting is, even with my pup, he was only 9. He got me through so many traumas. He got me through COVID. And this was this huge surprise. But again, that same kind of anticipatory grief of, I know this is coming. I might have to make this decision tomorrow or in 2 months. I don't know. The difference in each scenario was, in one, I had to really set a boundary. And in the other, I just became the supreme caretaker. But there was just something like, there was a knowing that I had in both situations. And I struggle a lot with sort of having guilt about that knowing, like, could I have done more? What else could I have done? But also, because of the work that I've done, knowing that there wasn't anything I could have done in either case, right? And being there for myself was a big lesson that I learned. But with my dog, I was not there for myself. I threw myself into taking care of him. And I think, whether it was my immune system or the universe, COVID came and was like, all right, you're gonna nap now for 2 weeks, you're gonna sleep. and there was just, and
you know what? It shut you down. It shut you down. It created the space for you to process what you needed to process. And, I remember years ago hearing Carolyn Mace talk. She's a medical intuitive. And she always said, she goes, we call in these health crises on a soul level to shut us down so that we shift our lives. And depending on, so I always coach my clients and I say, okay, your soul's came in, say, I'm living this path. And the more we veer by our free will from that path, what I have found is that the bigger the crisis the person then calls into their life to get back along their soul's path. And so yours was that you were just tired for a couple of weeks. So not a major crisis, but enough to lay you down.
Oh, right? Yeah. And having COVID, I definitely was grateful to have it on the more mild end, but it still sucked, and making this decision during that time was like, okay, am I doing this because I'm grieving and I'm depressed and I'm sick and I'm exhausted? But, really, again, taking a cue from all your work was like, I had started to, rehydrate and eat healthy, being sick and replenishing myself. I'm like, I'm just going to sit with this, turn off the electronics, light a few candles, listen to some chant music, and just sit in both of these decisions. And as I sat in the one decision, I just literally felt my body go, and as I sat in the, what if I say no and keep doing what I'm doing and rebuild, I went, and I just felt it. And then
that's your body intelligence that we always talk about. Wisdom. Your body was screaming at you. So our bodies are smarter than our minds, despite the fact that our entire educational system tells us otherwise.
Because my mind was going, you're crazy. You're going to turn 50. You're going to give up your business, leave the state where you have like friends that are 40 and 30 year long friendships. Are you crazy? And my body went, you know what, you know what I've learned during COVID? That they'll still be my best friends and I'll be back a lot and they'll be there. And it was the body that really gave me the answer.
Well, because we're not really any good unless we're paying attention to our bodies. It's like I say in the beginning of my book, I have a quote from the Dalai Lama that says, the West confuses me. He says, you spend your entire life working so hard and so many hours to make so much money. And then you spend the end of your life using all that money to pay for your poor health. It's like, boom, boom. So why are we doing things in our work life that are, in essence, you're selling your soul? Right? Because you're not paying attention to your heart and those gut feelings about where it is that you need to go next.
Yeah.
And it takes courage. And Sue, it's so courageous to do what you're doing, because not only are you changing careers, you're changing cities. You're jumping. And you know what? I have a ton of clients doing this. I have one that uprooted their family to the East Coast to, actually 2 of them are in North Carolina. Actually 3, gosh, now I think about it, 3 of them went to North Carolina. I've got a couple that went to Hawaii. I got a couple that went to Florida and Arizona. Like, people are just uprooting their lives because they're finally paying attention to their hearts.
Yeah.
And you don't know what door is going to open now that you've made this next right step. But that's where the magic is. That's where the mystery is. And I remember someone saying to me, well, you're going to find out if you have a boy or a girl when you're pregnant. I was like, no, because I remembered somebody saying to me, it's one of the few mysteries left of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because we even know our weather, what it's going to be and when it's going to snow and what time it's going to snow and blah, 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 blah. Like, we've planned out, we know how long it's going to take and what traffic pattern I could drive there to get me there on the right time. Like, everything's so planned out. There's no mysteries anymore. Right. And so it's about getting back to the mystery. It's about getting back to what is the mystery is another word maybe for it in your work life is like the adventure. Like, why can't we be adventurous in that next place in your work life?
Yeah.
Because I can tell you this, when you have more fun and you giggle more, you make more money. I've watched it happen so many times. So many times.
Well, when you open yourself up, there's this thing that happens when we place ourselves in unfamiliar situations or circumstances. When we're going through the motions of the things we're used to doing every day, so to speak, we get onto like automatic pilot and we shut many of our senses down, especially the intuitive sense. It's just not awake for it because we already think we know what's going to happen. This is why I love travel so much and why I love solo travel so much, because when you're in a new space or a space for the first time, someplace you've never been, not all 6 senses have to be open. You are paying so much attention to everything, sights, smells, sounds, like everything's alive and awake because it's unfamiliar. And so suddenly what I'll find is when I'm traveling, things that have been problems or things I need, challenges, things I need to work out, the ideas, the answers will swoop in. They'll swoop in. I'm just walking down the street trying to look like a local.
Totally.
You're like, ooh.
And in comes solutions and answers. Why? Because I am so wide open. I'm trying to receive everything. It's like being a sponge. So when you make the decision to do something new or do something for the first time, you don't even recognize that all your senses open up. And so things that may have always been an aspiration for you are more likely to manifest now that you've made such a dramatic decision to like go in these ways, because everything about you is going to be open. New environment, new people, new opportunities. What am I looking for? How's this working? All of that makes you like little angels in the sky are like dancing right now. We're about to get a direct dive in.
Like, come on.
You've been blocking us for a while. And now you have an opportunity to get in there. And so that's what's really phenomenal. And that's what, to Julie's point about, I call it curiosity or mystery. Like, we all have core mysteries. And for some reason, we stop exploring them in like our 20s. Once you start really working, you stop asking yourself, what am I curious about? Like, what are my mysteries? Because these are the things that pull us forward. And those mysteries are also tied to your mission, your soul plan on the planet. And when you stop exploring those, you kind of have walked outside of your soul path in a way.
Yeah. And if you stop exploring when you do get into your 40s and your 50s, when you're a completely different human being than you were in your 30s and 20s, wow, what you're missing out on when you've built that confidence and inner knowing and intuition to take you in different places than you would have ever experienced at a younger age.
Well, and it's almost reinvigorating you, right? Like going into a new space and I remember hearing an interview from the gentleman who, I forget his name is escaping me. He created the Archie Bunker show and the Jeffersons back in the 60s.
Oh,
Norman
Lear.
Norman Lear, thank you. He was in an interview and he's 92 at the time. And he was asked like, boy, so that was like the pinnacle of your life. Like your career was rocking. He's like, tell us about it. And he's like, I'm always at the pinnacle of my life. He's like, and they're like, what? Like you were the shiznit. Like you were creating sitcoms that the public resonated with. And it was cracking things open of the sign of the times. And he goes, no, every season of my life, there's always another ramp up. There's another pinnacle. He goes, I may not have been in society's spotlight when I was then in my 50s and my 60s and my 70s. And now in my 90s, maybe I wasn't, out in the spotlight that way. But he goes, you always have to enjoy every season of your life. And he talked about the things he was doing now in his 90s to expand and, follow his heart. And I thought that was just fascinating because here's a guy that the Western world would measure as going, yeah, you were at your top there, buddy, in your 50s, and your life's gone downhill ever since the last 40 years. And that's not the way he saw it at all. Not at all.
Society puts that, oh, you had a TV show, you were famous. That's to society, that's your pivotal moment. No, just because you have a TV show and you're famous and everyone knows your name across media, that doesn't mean you're happy.
Correct. And it's also about the fact that no matter what season of life you're in, you can always jump off the ledge and take the next adventure. Yeah. It doesn't matter. And people like, when I say to people when they're in their 60s and 70s, I'm like, well, what do you want to do? And they're like, well, I'm retired. Like we don't spend this time envisioning that next right step. And if you're not doing it in your 40s, then you're probably unlikely to do it in your 50s. And then you become completely stagnant by the time you're in your 60s, right? Because you stopped taking the adventures. And then we get more scared. And then we, have all the reasons why we want to stay in our little safety little bubble. Even though, is your bubble ever really safe? I don't know.
Never. That's the huge myth. We all think that there's a place to be safe. No.
The only thing that's for real is change, and you have to adapt.
Yeah, perpetual adaptation, I call it. That's the new space.
Yeah. And so Sue, tell us about some of the things internally as you were. I'd love to hear more about like you were laid out on your back in bed and like what were those things going through your mind so people can feel like they're not the only ones going.
Oh yeah, well there was a lot of spinning then, once it was like oh my God, like, yeah, all of the things like my body releasing, like knowing the right answer, and I literally had to get up and go into the bathroom and look in the mirror and say, I am doing this. This is happening, right? And see myself say that to myself because I was just like, whoa. And then I went back and laid down again and I started going through people. What came up next was first like, okay, my clients and I've been working with for so long. You're not just a client, you're a dear friend. And I just was like, wow, like, and I love what we do. And I was just like, this is gonna be really hard, but I also was like, oh shit, she's on vacation and I've got 3 weeks and I need to talk to her and like all the things. And then the other thing too was like, through COVID and being separate from so many of your friends, it was very interesting seeing how connection really up-leveled with a lot of people in my life, and especially with my brother and then my dog and then being sick. And the way my friendships like rallied around me and supported me, I'm gonna cry. Like, I just was like, I felt like, oh my God, all of these people in my life have just swarmed to my support and have been there in ways like I was just in a bubble of love. And I laid there going, I'm betraying all these people. I felt believing. And it really, and I had to get my 2 friends that I have literally known since I was this big friends, that two of my dearest friends that I've known for 44, 45 years of my life. And they embraced this with such excitement. And that again took me from this stewing anxiety of like, well, I got to tell people this and I'm betraying them and I'm a bad person, to like the love and support and excitement they had. And they started planning all these things, and people have already bought plane tickets to come see me. I don't even have one yet.
Great city. I'm sorry. You know, it's like you picked a good one.
Yeah. Well, and if it had been any other, I don't know that I could have done it. I truly think this was all of these crazy things in my life opening up the space. I don't know why they had to be so bad, negative, whatever, dramatic, but opening up the space to just be like, go. And so when I started that process and was just embraced by it, again, that feeling of all the spinning, telling people, clients, like transitioning, oh my God, what are people going to think? And of course, too, am I giving up my business? You know, there's a stigma around starting a business and then going back. And I have a dear friend who specifically focuses on that work, and she helped me through this journey. And it's like, no, you're not giving up. You're going back to something that you're going to learn more and continue to escalate in a way you couldn't have done on your own.
Well, and there is a skill set that you learn when you become an entrepreneur that brings you back into a bigger organization that you could never get unless you go out on your own.
Yeah.
Like it's not about failure. It's not about anything. It's about you've built different muscles. And to me, what that says is you're an invaluable part to the owners of that company and to the leaders of that company, because you know what it takes to take the bootstraps up and like make it happen. Yeah. And a lot of employees don't know how to hold that container.
Well, yeah. And you've been in the streets, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like you've been on the very active ends. In corporate, we can get a little desensitized to the user experience, to like being in the like weeds, trying to work things out. And when you work the way you work with individual clients, helping them to optimize, you're in the weeds with them. And so it's a little bit like, you know, a way to think about it is like CrossFit.
Yeah.
You are doing CrossFit training right now in your life. And so you've had the entrepreneurial deal, you've got the corporate thing happening, you've got maybe small business, you've got like, it's the biggest lesson here is that you get to do you. And the thing I want to call out for everybody else is like, there's so many voices out there that have an opinion about us as individuals, that the real practice is learning to let those voices go, right? In the midst of just trying to do you. I mean, did you encounter anybody who told you were crazy?
No. Like, well, crazy in a good way, like everybody. And that's something I'm so grateful for too in my relationships, is that I've heard a lot of people who did the thing I did in 2009 or did the thing I'm doing now and had naysayers. And I had none of that in my life either time. Every time I've made a crazy decision, everyone has just been like, this is amazing and we're coming with you.
And you know what? This is the age Julie knows we talk about this. I call it mystics in the midst. And the whole concept is that there are way showers being activated right now for a reason. The mystics used to go away to do their spiritual work, convents, ashrams, monasteries. But now I think we are being activated here on the front line to be way showers. I remember when I left corporate and the reaction that people had at the time. I thought I was leaving to open a wellness center in downtown Chicago. And the number of people who came to my door, closed it, sat down, and basically offered to me how, oh my God, I wish I could do what you were doing, but I only have 5 years left till I'm fully vested, or I don't think I have the blah, blah, blah. Like, even the naysayers, if they've taken the time to tell you how crazy they are, you triggered something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You triggered an aspiration, you triggered a boldness, you triggered a question or a curiosity that they themselves have. People who are content in their lives really don't have an opinion on yours.
Right.
Like if they're happy where they are, They're not trying to tell you
They're not in
that's
your
stupid.
business.
That's stupid. You can't do that. No, they're confronted by their own fears and doubts in what you're doing. And it sometimes gets dressed up like, I'm just looking after you, or I'm really concerned about you. No, you're concerned about if you tried to do it, how scary it is to you. So thanks for being a way shower. And I'm not surprised because you aligned with why and what you were doing. And people, more and more people need to see that. And the more evidence there is of it, the more people will be willing to take, stick a toe in the water and try it for themselves. But I'm telling the number of people, I'm telling you, this was almost 20 years ago, who came to me and said, oh my God, I wish I could do what you were doing. Like they are in the closet. I'm just telling you, they're in the closet and we need to out all of them. And
Well, sorry, I was gonna say, like, Sue, it'll be really interesting over the next few months or the next year, how many of those people, to Karen's point, that you activated make changes themselves, because you showed them the way. And it's like you gave them permission to do it in their own lives. And that's why I want people to recognize that. That's why you were recognized to be lifted up, right? And they lifted you up in that process, because those naysayers, they tend to, when you trigger them, it's because they're not necessarily ready to take those steps in their own lives, and you're being a mirror to them, saying, no, you can stop putting up with the things in your life that don't feed you. And they don't necessarily know how.
And it's scary as hell. And there were a lot of times that I, have felt over the course of this, business owning journey of like, there's nothing else. I've gotten myself stuck in here. Oh my God, COVID, I'm going to end up on the streets and terrified. And then, just as you're sitting in that anxious place, if anyone is, because it's a very anxious time in the world, and there's a lot of people struggling with their business or their jobs still, that, I really would get into these down zones of like, this is never going to get any better. How am I going to get out of this? That something comes your way and smacks you in the face. And you're like, oh my God, something was waiting for me.
Right. Well, and it's something that excites you.
Yeah.
That's the most important part. Like, I've watched you now talk about it and you're geeking out about it. And I'm like going, I would never in a million years geek out about what you're geeking out about. But oh my God, to watch you is fun as hell.
I never thought I would geek out about like getting a Google Analytics certification, but I was like, hey.
But that's what it's supposed to do to your physical body when it's in right alignment with your soul. That's what happens.
And that's some of the stuff that keeps you healthy. That vibration keeps you healthy. That joy, excitement, fun, healthy challenge. A healthy challenge keeps you healthy. What I mean by that is like, ooh, I don't know how I'm going to get, let me just like, when you're invigorated by a challenge that's in front of you, that's actually really healthy. Like when you want to solve the problem, when you want to get to the bottom of it, that's healthy.
And it makes you treat everything else holistically with that excitement as well. Because where one is pulling away, the rest start to decline. And as you can bring that up, holistic approach returns.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, it's very freeing. Ultimately, it's all about freedom. And I'm so super happy for you. I can't wait.
Thank you. Yeah. And what you just said was also so interesting. In my head went like, when I started the journey, it was like a lot of people associate freedom with not having a job, right? And doing their thing. And I did at first too. And it was great. But then what I'm realizing now too, as things have shifted, is like that freedom is more about how I feel about me and how I feel about the people I'm surrounded with, and what I'm now doing to learn again, things that are completely new to advance myself. That's the freedom.
Yep. That's beautiful.
Well said. Well, Sue, thank you so much for joining us today. And you have, I'm sure, given courage to many others as they watch this, because we all can jump off ledges and have more fun.
And I would encourage you to journal it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Journal a little bit each day. Like, what am I feeling today? What am I challenged? Because you'll look back and be really surprised. And when you, because you will, tell your story, it'll be there. And sometimes you look back on those journal entries and you're like, wow, I was really cranked up, or wow, in either direction. Like,
That's
I was
true.
cranked up like, yay, or I was cranked up like, you know, and we tend to lose those deeper memories, right? They just write it down, you know, because I think it's going to be a really beautiful story to tell.
I like that. Thank you for that, Karen. I think I do want to start doing that because it will be cool to look back on. And I want to thank you guys, you know, for what you've been doing, because your messages, you know, whether I'm watching you live or it's because I'm downloading your videos in the background, I'm listening to them, am I watching them? And I'm like, you know, it's inspiring, and there's such great messages, you know, they really are. And there's so much learning to be had and exploring that intuition and joy that you guys talk about all the time. So you guys have been part of that journey. And so I appreciate that.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
Well, here's to launching your life, sister. Love you. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. Bye.